We hope you had a happy Christmas, and we're wishing you obviously a happy New Year as well. We're going to kick off the new year talking about the word that's really on everyone's lips in the coffee shops, in the bars, in the pubs, I bet even in the public libraries. And the word is independence, Alberta independence. And this is something that was whispered a few years ago, and it's rising to a roar. And we're here to talk about really the man who's at this kind of the center of the storm, doing most of the roaring, or at least a lot of it. His name is Mitch Sylvester. He's really the face. He's become the one of the leaders, perhaps the face of the Alberta Prosperity Project, which is spearheading a movement that has not only gathering momentum, but it is now an historic movement that could completely change the lives of every Albertan and every Canadian. So we're very pleased to have you with us, Mitch. Hope you had a great Christmas and Happy New Year. Welcome to the live stream. It's great to have you on
Actually,
again.
yeah, it's good to be back. It's been a little while, and we have lots to talk about. It's been quite an eventful year, to tell you the honest to God truth, and really exciting last couple of weeks.
Yeah, you've been very, very busy. We're going to talk about that. Before we dive in, we're going to do a little bit of housekeeping. First of all, we're going to talk. I want to mention the book. Our book is out, Lies, Laws, and Liberties. We hope that some of you bought this as a Christmas present.
Mhm.
We should have fit in a stocking. And also want to remind you that we have the third in a trilogy of Christmas commentaries. This one I call Woke Christmas, but it addresses the woke attack on religious holidays and Western civilization, how it's happening, who's doing it, and why. So we hope you check that out. That was just released. Also, want to mention that next week on the live stream, we're going to have Jason Levine and Bruce Party, been a strong proponent of Alberta independence.
Mhm.
They're going to be on the live stream promoting a January 10th event in Red Deer called Fundamental Truths. And I'm going to be there at the Legacy Center in Red Deer. We're going to be there from 1 to 7 p.m. Tickets are available. I think they're about $24. But Bruce is going to be there, Bruce Party, Jack Mintz, Sean Buckley, John Carpe, and others. So we hope that you'll take that in. Those tickets are available online. The other big thing that's happening is on the 12th of January, my wife and I are flying down to Dallas to do the launch of the Gray Matter show on Daystar
Mhm.
TV, which is kind of a big deal for us. So those are sort of the highlights. I don't know if I missed anything, Michael. If I did, I'm sure that you'll correct me, and perhaps you can tell people how they can support the show.
Yes, absolutely. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us on a lovely Tuesday. And of course, lovely might change depending on your location. But here in Southern Alberta, we've been dealing with Chinooks for the last few days. So, not a lot of snow, some warm temperatures, and a whole lot of that wind. And my wife and I always say a nice breeze down here in Southern Alberta is a gale force wind anywhere else. So we're glad that you all are here with us and listening in and supporting the show. Thanks again. My hat's off to those that have intentionally gone over to the Gray Matter YouTube channel. We've been getting some phenomenal numbers on Leighton's short, especially the Christmas one and the history of Christmas. So if you still have some questions about the history of Christmas, you need to get over to the Gray Matter YouTube page and check out the deep dive that our friend Leighton did on that particular subject. I think that you're really going to like it. Now, another way to support the show, of course, is our Buy Me a Coffee page. So you can go to buymeacoffee.com/Gray Matter Podcast, and you can support the show with a one-time donation or an ongoing monthly donation. And of course, Leighton's Substack is another great spot to get the information that we put out here at Gray Matter Podcast, and the Gray Matter newsletter is also on Substack. So some great outlets to get the information. There is more coming. Of course, Leighton talked about Daystar for those of you that have cable and enjoy watching content that way. Andrew and I have been cutting down some specific episodes into a 28 and a half minute episode. So you won't want to miss that too. If you have cable, definitely check out Gray Matter on the Daystar Canada Network. Looking forward to that. So, Leighton, back to you.
Okay, so folks, the graphic that I picked up, and I don't know if you can show this, Michael. This is from the Alberta Prosperity
I don't
Project.
have it. No.
But you can see this on their social media. It says it's time to leave, and that's kind of the message that has been going out. And Mitch and I have known each other for quite a long time. We live in the same part of Alberta. Mitch is a successful sporting goods merchant and has been for decades. But about 3 years ago, Mitch, I recall being at an event. It was an APP event. It was one that I think you put together in Bonnyville. And you were there at that time as part of Take Back Alberta. And you'd done a lot of work with Take Back Alberta, had been successful in getting Jason Kenney removed as the premier. But at that time, we were there. And really, it's hard to believe how far Alberta Prosperity Project and the cause of independence has gone from kind of an idea that was talked about and many people didn't know about to December 22nd, 2025. I'm looking at a letter addressed to you. Dear Mitch Sylvester, Citizen Initiative Petition Application. This is from Elections Alberta. Please be advised the application for the Citizen Initiative Petition referendum relating to Alberta independence has met the requirements of the Citizen Initiative Act. And this letter to advise mandatory 7-day notice publishing period. It says that essentially that there is going to be a referendum on Alberta independence. You must have been just so thrilled and excited to receive that letter. What's the import of the letter? And maybe back us up to the efforts that you've been doing, everything you've been working on since the last time we talked to you, coming up and through, the publication. This is obviously a huge step for the Alberta independence movement.
Well, I think it's a huge step for Alberta, actually, to tell you the truth. I think it's going to give us an opportunity to actually put that, now that the question's been approved, and it's going to happen, it's going to create conversation. You alluded to that right at the beginning. I think once Albertans understand exactly what's at stake here and why they should be afraid of what's happening out there and why they should actually really be terrified of what's coming. I think that they'll understand that us, taking our own path, because it's a legal path. It's something that we can do. Quebec has tried to do it twice. So we're going down that path as well. And I believe Albertans will make the right decision. I hope they do. But the path has been fairly interesting for me, getting involved with APP. And then, and it's funny how it goes. Dr. Modry came to me and he said to me, would you like to attend a meeting? And I said, I did not want to attend a meeting. I was running the pension project already, and I was head of my CA board, and I was with Take Back Alberta still at the time. Mm-hmm. Well, I'd kind of left Take Back Alberta at that point to do the pension plan. So we had been doing 70 or 80 town halls on pension up to that point or more. And so, we were running around trying to make, one of the 5 pillars that they identify with APP as one of the necessary things to happen if Alberta was going to become independent would be to bring the pension plan home, with the $400 billion attached to it. So that would make a great big difference to anybody's financial situation, even the province of Alberta. So Dennis said, come to a meeting. So I went to a meeting, and they were discussing the viability of APP. Because Alberta Prosperity Project at that point, basically run a course. I wasn't saying run its course, but ran a course. And, they basically didn't have enough funds to fund their operations. And so they decided maybe we should either take a hiatus or stop it altogether. Yeah. So I ended up coming home talking to my wife about that, because there was only 4 of us in the Alberta pension plan group. So I thought, they have a bunch of wonderful volunteers, and I've organized meetings for them. They do a really good job organizing meetings. And I believe they have a real great group of people there. So, maybe I should offer to be CEO of the project. Yeah. So I got back in touch with them, and I said the next day, I said, you know what, I will head the Prosperity Project if you'll have me. If not, well, I'll just continue doing what I'm doing. Yeah. they did actually say, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
We'll
I'm not
do that.
surprised. I'm not surprised.
We'd be excited to have you.
Yeah.
They said, so perfect. So away we went. And then we kept doing pension events. And then a little while later, I actually got a text from a guy who's actually facing, who said that Mark Carney's going to win this election. And you were the first guy that said it to me.
Yeah.
And I went, wait, oh my God, we're 20 some points ahead. Like, what the hell? Who's talking to you? But a little while later, I got it from another very reliable person. So I started to pay attention to that. So what we did was we made sure that, being in retail, I understand that when you're trying to sell something, especially online, if it's going to be a popular item, you want to be sure that you can take all the orders.
Right.
You want it and on time. Like, you don't want anybody to have to go back. So we spent a couple months redoing our computer stuff so that we could actually onboard as many people as would come.
Yeah. Yeah.
So after Carney won the election, Albertans were visibly upset.
Oh, yeah.
And me included. I mean, that changed my whole perspective on everything. That day changed me from an Alberta within Canada guy to an Alberta independent, completely outside Canada. Because I actually come to the realization that if after 10 years of that kind of government, we still can't get rid of these people, we'll never get rid of them.
Yeah.
And so there we go. But then because Carney won, we were onboarding 5,000 to 6,000 people an hour. And that was and they were on this pledge to commit to sign a referendum for independence if we ever had it. So we ended up with 240,000 people from there. And then the Premier changed the rules to, the threshold being 177,000. And then she further changed the rules. Then we put our submission in, the first one. And what ended up happening there was that the Elections Alberta sent it off to court to Justice Feasby to actually look at this question to see, if they were going to allow it or not.
Yeah.
Well, Justice Feasby, with all due respect, is a Liberal appointed judge. And the way we see it, or I saw it, is how can it be against the Constitution to ask a constitutional question? How can it be against, anything to ask a question? How can it impact anybody's rights by asking a question? But he was looking down the road at the event of something like this happening, with us having 250,000 signatures and pledges, and the threshold only being 177,000. Once the question was approved, it's not a slam dunk, but it's a very good chance that we'll be able to get those numbers that are required. And then, you know what? He was going to rule against us. I believe the UCP government got a hold of that, and they thought that wasn't the spirit of the Citizens Initiative Act. So they actually changed the Citizens Initiative Act and took the Section 2.4 out of it, and actually took the judge basically right off the case, which did not make him very happy. However, there's a couple of remarks made during that trial that will stay with me forever. One of them was clearly Justice Feasby said there are questions that the citizens should not be allowed to ask. And I thought, wow, isn't that ever interesting?
Right.
So apparently this is one of those questions.
Yeah.
Right? So then, and he was very, very visibly upset that the government had changed the law. And that's another thing that struck me kind of funny. I said, well, here we have a bureaucrat, an appointed judge, who believes that duly elected people shouldn't be allowed to change the law, any law, because they were elected. I guess that doesn't matter. It would be in his purview to make the changes on something this important. And he was visibly upset about the fact that they actually changed the law before he could rule.
Yeah.
So he ruled anyway, at any rate. So then, we resubmitted our question word for word with what was in the declaration.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
Word for word.
Yeah.
So
And the
people say,
question now is, do you agree that Alberta shall cease to be a province in Canada and become an independent state? That's the question, right?
That is the question.
Yeah.
And it's approved.
Yeah. Now, Mitch, I want to go back a couple steps here, because many people watching and listening will know who you are, but many don't.
Okay.
And, you were talking about Alberta Prosperity Project. And I know you're not the type to blow your own horn, so but I'm going to do a little bit of that for you. I was involved in Alberta Prosperity Project, as you know,
Mhm.
and it would have died if you hadn't come along because it needed you. It needed your skills. And going back, you talked about sales. That's something obviously you're very strong in. You're a person who has a tremendous energy, um, tremendous leadership qualities. And going back, as I look at what has happened in your life, what you've been doing, let's say over the last 5 years, it almost parallels what's been happening with the independence movement. Going back to you getting very involved and very active in response to lockdown measures during COVID. You started there, and then you got very involved in Take Back Alberta. And a lot of people won't know also that you are the head of the most influential UCP constituency association in Alberta. That you organize people, you put people on buses that go to conventions and decide who's going to be the leader of the province. So people don't understand. You have all these skills, and when I look at what you've been doing since when you took on, with David Parker, when you sort of took on the problem with Jason Kenney, let's face it, you were largely responsible for helping Danielle Smith become our premier, and then the pension movement going around. I don't know where you got the energy to go around night after night and talk about that pension project, but then that led you almost naturally into the role you're in now. But really, as far as this has come, it never would have happened if it weren't for you and people like you. But I want to give you credit because, and this is really what's different about Alberta versus other provinces. I'm sure that there are many people in other provinces who don't like the Mark Carney government. They don't like what's happening. But what's different about Alberta is we're blessed with people like you who are really, really willing to get out of their doors and go out and talk to people and really do something and make a difference. So all credit to you for all of that. But I want to ask you now, where does it go from here? Like, obviously you've come so far, you've done so much work, but what's the next step in the movement as you see it?
Well, the next step in the movement is to get a whole bunch of signatures. We need 177,000, but we're certainly not going to be satisfied with, getting 180,000 signatures. We absolutely want to take it to every Albertan, to every Albertan house, and explain to them why we're so panicked, why we're absolutely working day and night to stop this nonsense coming from the east happening to Alberta and Albertans. How it's possible that we have a government that's borrowing money like it's going out of style, and yet sabotaging the only biggest means that we have to pay it back. Like, how does that work? We've had 400 some churches burnt here in the last 3-4 years. Bill C9 is coming down to make the Bible a hate symbol, make Quran a hate symbol. What's going on is absolutely mind-boggling to me. And all of it, like, the immigration policies, the general way that they're treating criminals, that they're catch and release programs where there's no consequences for doing anything, what's going on in our schools, what's going on, what happened during COVID. I mean, most people get really uncomfortable talking about COVID, but you would be really, really uncomfortable if you took some time and really did a deep dive into what really happened during COVID.
Yeah.
And it continues. So I mean, there's so much going on that seems to me so absolutely unnatural. I mean, based on the Canada I grew up in, and that's the whole thing. I grew up in one of the best times. I see the difference.
Yeah.
But I can't believe that any of this stuff is actually being talked about in Parliament. And the fact that, I mean, and what happened in 2019 when they changed C-39 so that the government could lie to the people, that's unheard of in my world. Censorship, unheard of. Like, all this stuff is totally unbelievable to me. And that's why we're panicked. That's why I'm panicked. That's why I go around the province to talk to people and say, hey, let's pay attention to what's going on here, because this is life-changing. Like, this is going to change us from something to something very, very different. And we better be prepared for it, or it's going to happen.
Hmm.
So
One
where
of
do
the
we
things,
go?
yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Where do we go? We got
Yeah.
to try and sign 1 million or more Canadians, Albertans here to support the project and the
Hmm.
motion right away, and actually make sure that the government has a mandate, has a clear mandate to call the referendum.
Yeah.
And once we call the referendum, we're in campaign mode from now till the day that vote happens.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
we're going to go out there and, educate Albertans. And I mean, everybody has a vote. Our goal is to get a majority of those votes to see things the way we see them.
Hmm. Hmm. One of the challenges, Mitch, I want to get your take on this. One of the challenges seems to be that the people who are opposed to, or maybe not yet in support of independence for Alberta, don't really understand the messaging, and they see what you're doing as I think incorrectly as a separation movement. And you mentioned Quebec earlier, but I think what's very, very different about the Alberta independence movement and Quebec separation is that Alberta's not really separating. You were just talking about the Alberta that you grew up in, the your home, the
Mhm.
place you know,
Right.
with its values and its character and its beauty. And I really see the Alberta independence movement as a preservation movement, as a conservation movement. It's a movement to preserve the part of Canada that is our home, that we love, that we want to carry on in the way that it's been for a long time, and also improve it in many ways. But
Mhm.
really, it's really more of a preservation conservation movement. It's a reaction to all this awful stuff that Ottawa is doing. Would you agree with that take?
Absolutely. That's very, very well put from top to bottom. I totally agree with that. That's absolutely what we're doing. And the reason we're doing it is for the very reasons that you outlined. We
Hmm.
wanted to go back to the way it was before. Everybody has, you come here, you work hard, you can do well, you can have a good life. The sky's the limit here. There's no
Hmm.
limitation on how well you can do. I mean, you're from 20 miles away from here. You've seen a lot of, dirt poor farm boys work really hard and become very, very rich oilmen.
God bless them. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
God bless them.
and
It's
and
right.
create a lot of jobs and wealth for other people.
Absolutely. And I have many friends that have done that, came from, that picked rocks all summer, every day on these farms that were barely making a living. And then all of a sudden there's oil straight north of town here, and they need vac truck operators, and then they become vac truck owners. And then the next thing you know, they own 50 vac trucks, and they're in business, in real business. And I mean, that's the beauty of living here. That's what I saw. And
Hmm.
guys
Hmm.
like you and me, who wanted to be home every night, and chose not to take that hard path, because I'm sure that we could have been at least as successful as some of them. But the whole thing was, these guys are working long hours away from home a lot,
Hmm.
and they're making big money. And as far as I'm concerned, they deserve it. But
Hmm.
but but the point of the whole thing is that the opportunity was there for them to take.
Right.
And
Yeah.
that's what we're seeing is going to be missing here. The
Hmm.
opportunity for our young people is not going to be there. It's clearly not there. And,
Hmm.
and they're bringing in immigrants here to take away their high school jobs and paying them
Yeah.
50% of their wages. Well,
Hmm.
that makes no sense to me. None of that makes
Hmm.
sense to me.
Hmm. One of the things, Mitch, that I wanted to ask you about is when I was at a fundraiser not long ago for the premier. She was here. You were on stage with her,
Yeah.
and you got up and you said something like, show of hands or cheer. How many of you want to live in an independent, free Alberta? And it was like the whole room rose up, and it was a huge roar, like the
It was.
Oilers scoring against the Flames, at Rexall. And then the premier said, well, how many of you want to be a part of a new Canada, reconfederated Canada? And everybody sort of, you could have heard a pin drop, and there were some murmurs and a few boos. And she said, well, but I'm going to keep trying anyway, because I think this is what's best for you. And there's this concept of reconfederation that's being bandied about by people like Michael Binion and Ron Mannix and Preston Manning. And the premier seems to have signed on to this. And it sounds something like they're going to get you and the other good people of APP to go and do all this work and get a successful referendum. And then they're going to move in, and they're going to rejig and reconfederate, and get some kind of better deal within Canada. I expect that you reject this totally, but are you
Totally, yeah.
concerned? Are you concerned that there's some people out there that are maybe going to try to misuse and exploit your independence, the independence movement for their own purposes?
Absolutely, without question. But I mean, we're taking steps to not allow that to happen. And the
Mhm.
funniest thing, you bring in Michael Binion first,
Mhm.
and I mean, Michael Binion is a very rich person.
Yeah, yeah,
Like we're seeing that the very rich don't necessarily want this to
yeah.
change because they're doing very well in the system that's
Mhm,
here.
mhm.
So, I mean, I would suggest that, we've had conversation with, not me personally, Jeff and Dennis went and attended an event that these people put on. And basically the gist of the event was, thanks for getting us here. We'll take it from here.
Jeff said he told him to go pound sand, which
Well,
sounds a
exactly.
lot
Jeff,
like something our good friend Jeff Rath would say.
yeah, and he did. I believe he actually did, and he's been saying lots of things since. Actually, he continues to do that.
Mhm.
But he's a very, very valuable member of this team, and actually, I appreciate him in a lot of ways. I
Mhm.
love his bombacity. I love
Yeah.
his energy. I love his commitment to the cause, and you know what? He's 100% in on this, and he identifies this very thing that you brought up, like. How do you negotiate with Ottawa when we haven't been able to negotiate with Ottawa at all for 120 years?
Right.
And what we see right now is all of that first 110 years on, right now, this last 10 years is that whole 110 combined on steroids. Like
Yeah.
what's happening now is absolutely insane.
Yeah.
Who in the world, like who in the room doesn't believe that the Liberals are stealing billions of dollars from us?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so if that's the case, and we all acknowledge it's not the case, it's not very hard to come up with, 400 million in the Green Slush Fund right off the bat
Yeah.
that Trudeau had to resign over. So there's 400 million. So let's just assume that 400 million is a lot of money, and more than a $16 glass of orange juice, which caused that MP to resign back in the day.
Yeah.
So here we are with a system of basically criminals.
Yeah.
How do you negotiate with those people?
Mhm. Mhm.
And we haven't been successful. What's happened here to the premier since she left Bonnyville at that dinner? She said, I'm going to make my 12 demands. And Dr. Modry, if you recall,
Yes.
asked on
Mhm.
stage, how long do we have before you change your posture, your stance on this? And she said 6 months.
And do you think she's changed? Do you think she's shifted now towards
Well,
independence?
we're here.
Mm.
We're here.
Yeah.
We're definitely the leverage. I mean, we're definitely going to, see, here's the problem with what's happened here, as far as, in my personal opinion, as far as they're concerned.
Mhm.
There's no putting the genie back in the bottle now,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, if this becomes as big as I hope it will become, there's no stopping the movement.
Mhm.
The movement
Mhm.
is big already, and we showed that at the AGM 2 or 3 weeks ago with a very
Mhm.
conscious question that we had, we knew going in that we were going to ask, and the room did the same thing that night
Mm.
at the AGM as it did in Bonnyville, and so there's and the funniest thing that you got to bring up about Bonnyville also is that was not planned. And there was 800 people there, $250 a plate, and a lot of them did not know, and didn't know their political, how they felt politically.
Right.
But that was a very clear message, and
Mhm.
I was very happy about it. You know that.
Yeah.
But the whole thing is that it's our job to build this bigger so that they can't cheat.
Mhm. Mhm.
That's what we have to do.
Yeah.
We have to build this big enough so they can cheat. Our
Mhm.
job is to get enough people on our side of this that 70 or 80% majority is not going to be questioned.
Yeah.
They said it has to be a clear majority. So if we get, I think 50 plus 1 is a majority, but if we get 60, 65, 70, that's a very clear majority, and I think that's doable.
One of the challenges, and I know you know this because you've spent so much time engaged in active education of Albertans about the benefits, not only the problems with Canada, but the benefits of independence, is stuff like Ryan Jesperson saying online that Jeff Rath should be hung as a traitor. I'm sure you heard about this. This is on. I mean,
No, I had not
that's
heard.
he actually posted that. He said, there was a time when we would string up traitors.
Oh,
And so that level of ignorance is hard to get up against. But you've spent a lot of your time educating people on the benefits of independence. One of them is, and I know you talk a lot about, is this equalization. $13.9 billion going to Quebec
annually.
from the sort of the have provinces, mainly Alberta and Saskatchewan. British Columbia, $5 billion to Manitoba, $406 million to Ontario, $3.3 billion to a little tiny maritime province like New Brunswick.
Mhm.
But some of the benefits you talk about, and of course, I know you could talk all day about the pension plan, but every year, the Liberal government of Ottawa takes $2,800 from every man, woman, and child in Alberta. That's a statistic I know that you've given out, and gives to Quebec essentially. So that's $11,200 for a family of four, and this should seem like a no-brainer, Mitch. You'll pay less tax, keep more of your money. Our $47 billion will stay here to fund better hospitals, schools, and roads. Our economy will boom with oil and gas and agriculture. Investment will flow in, not flee. Raise your kids without propaganda in the classroom. Mass immigration policies will end. Your voice will actually matter in elections. Your rights and freedoms will be protected. Your home, your land, your values will be respected. Your culture and identity will be preserved. And that's not even getting into, the pension plan. But and I know that you've done, you and not just you, but the Alberta Independence Movement, people like yourself and Dr. Modry, Tanner Naday, and others, and even myself occasionally, have gone out, talked to people about the benefits of independence. Now, in order to get those signatures, do you see advancing that education to people as the key to that? Or is there some other method that you think is important to get to that, to get those signatures?
Well, first, let me go back to Jesperson for a minute. I remember when he was on the other side of the ledger, and now he's become an independent journalist, or he says he's an independent journalist. But follow the money. If these people are claiming that we're traitors because there's a legal path here. This is legally something that you can legally.
But the judge says there's questions you're not supposed to ask, right?
Well, yeah, exactly. But
there's a problem when.
Right? Yeah, but the whole thing is, and I want to question media right now, as far as actually being traitors is concerned. If media is bought by government, which is harming the people, how do you define that?
Yeah.
And it's not hard to define. I think that's a way clearer path to treason than following a clearly defined legal path that's in the Constitution. So how are we going to do that? Well, I'll tell you what, we're ramping up from 20 events a month to 100, starting in the new year. So do we believe that education is the key? It totally is the key. We're going to, we've booked the BMO Center in Calgary for January 26th, and there's going to be 6,500 seats there, and we know we're going to fill them. We're going to be talking to people. We're going to ask people themselves, like everybody in the room, everybody listening, including you guys, has some low-hanging fruit. People that that are going to sign this, that you can reach. You're maybe the only person that can reach, and you're going to go out there where we're going to make a pledge, or we're going to give everybody pledge sheets, and they can go out there and become canvassers on our behalf. Just even if they get their family.
Yeah.
That's a big deal. Like if there's people in there say, well, I'm not that guy, but you can talk to your kids. You can, and your kids can talk to their friends, and who knows, you might find somebody in that group that's going to take it and run. So how is that going to happen? It's going to happen. I really believe that we can win this doing grassroots politics.
Right.
And
that's how you've done everything else, isn't it?
Exactly, and that's how we got here. So I really believe that me talking to you and you talking to your kids, or you talking to your friends, and then they talking to their friends, is going to be the way that we can win this. And I'm going to tell you something else. It's really hard to stop.
Yeah. Well,
And
they are going to try. There's going to be a
oh,
propaganda
absolutely.
put. It's already started, hasn't it?
Oh yeah, no, absolutely, they're going to try. And for $47 billion, you expect them not to try. Like I mean, that and that's what we're talking about. And the other thing that I'm concerned about, I'm sure they're concerned about. I would be concerned about it if it was me, and I may not be, as educated as they are on what they're doing. But once people understand that, look, what's happening in Alberta, all of a sudden these people have all this money to spend. They're completely changed. The healthcare system is going to change. I mean, maybe we could combine naturopathic medicine with traditional, with the medicine that's out there. We could have control over what goes into our food. We could be healthier. We could be wealthier, and we would not be oppressed. We could be get real information from the people that are supposed to give you real information, like we got freedom of the press. And you could go to church here and not worry about being part of a hate group and being targeted by government. So I really believe that there's a whole social thing involved with what's going on here and what we want to do. And the whole thing is we've been lied to for 100 years.
Yeah.
I think that once people have this extra 20 or 30% disposable income, they're going to spend it. And our economy is going to boom from within as well. It's going to create a whole bunch of work. I really believe we're going to have to put a big fence around Alberta once people understand what's going on.
Well, we know the Canadian state is failing. In fact, I saw a figure from the World Bank. You might have seen this, Mitch. And this is very timely because, of course, our prime minister, and I hesitate to even call him that because I'm not convinced that he was duly elected, just gave, I believe, another $2.5 billion to Mr. Zelensky and Ukraine in what most people think is a money laundering scheme over there. But the interesting thing is the World Bank actually rates the rate of growth for the state of Ukraine, which has been locked in war for several years, and which is essentially at best a sort of third world country. Their rate of growth in terms of GDP is higher than Canada's, and we're giving them $2.5 billion. So it's really impossible to make the case anymore that Canada is not a failed state. But it seems though there's an emotional attachment here. And I know you deal with this a lot, Mitch. People are tied to the past. They're nostalgic. But there doesn't seem to be an acceptance of the reality that Canada is a failed state. It's not going to make it. And there's a great graphic. People are so talented. Alberta does not have to go down with the ship, and of course it's the good ship Canada, looking like the Titanic. And then there's people like you on the lifeboat of Alberta saying we could get out of here. But that's part of the education problem too, isn't it? To get people out of this nostalgia. There's a lot of nostalgia, and this is the ironic thing that surprises people who are not Albertans. I think that Albertans are the most patriotic people in the country. I think we love our country more, if that's possible. And I know I'm biased in saying this, more than anyone else, in other parts of the country. And I think that's part of the reason why we put up with this stuff for so long. Would you agree with that, Tim?
Yeah, no, 100%. How can Canada have a 1.4% GDP over the last 10 years? There's no way unless you try. There's no way unless you consciously do it. And that's what people are missing. People are missing the fact that these people, and these are the people that we're going to get away from. We're not getting away from Canada. We're getting away from them.
Yes.
Like there's absolutely no way that we can stay in Canada with those people because we have no power over them. They behave like they're kings. They're above the law. And so how can we possibly deal with these people? Well, they've actually showed us what they thought of us here with what they gave our premier, of our 12 demands.
Yeah.
They gave us a memorandum of understanding that would actually drive a wooden stake in the heart of Alberta for real, once for all, with a 6 times increase in the carbon tax.
Yeah.
So and it's hard right now to not be a patriotic Canadian because Team Canada's playing.
Sure. Yeah.
Right.
The Olympics coming up, and
don't minimize that, because, you know, I mean, that's some of the funnest TV I have is watching Olympics and cheering for Canada and absolutely wanting that to them to win everything all the time. And I mean, and that comes from, you know, the way we've lived our entire lives. However, if you have cancer and you've been told you have cancer, even if you go to bed at night and want to hope that you don't, you wake up in the morning with it again.
Yeah.
And it doesn't, and it gets worse.
Yeah.
And that's what's happening here. We are sick, we are broken, and these people are consciously breaking us. They're not allowing us to grow. They're not doing what government is designed to do, which is make us richer, help us grow, create jobs by getting, you know, someplace to sell our oil. That's what they're supposed to do. They're absolutely not doing that. They're not doing any of it. So what they're doing is they're basically attacking our lifestyle and attacking our children and our future. And people have to wake up to the fact that that's happening. And we don't sugarcoat anything at our events anymore.
Yeah.
Like, there's no sugarcoating. Our events are hardcore. And I'm sorry. I know that some people, I lose 6 people every night. I have 6 people get up and walk out the door. They can't handle it. Well, I'm sorry, but I can't. How do you soft sell what's happening? How can you possibly soft sell that? So you know what? We're in a crisis that's created by the Liberal government. You know, more so. I mean, when Stephen Harper was in power and he left power, we were not in this situation. Right. Yeah. And I mean, there's, however you want to wrap that, maybe we're on our way, but we're definitely not there. And when Justin got involved, then everything went crazy. Yeah. You know, as stupid as everybody thought he was, I never ascribed to that theory. I thought that maybe he was smarter than people gave him credit for, and he actually got us a long ways down this path. Yeah. And we ended up here. So people have to understand that we are being consciously attacked by our own government, and that we have a choice. Either we say no, or we put up with it. If we put up with it, as far as I'm concerned, government, even our government, if our government puts up with it, then they're on their side. And I mean, there's only 2 sides to this. There's no middle. Yeah.
There was a great speech I saw in the EU by a man, I believe he was from the Czech Republic, where he was telling the EU how they hate freedom. Did you see this, Mitch? And he was describing how, and actually everything he said about how the EU treats people in the European Union, you could apply precisely to the way the federal government treats Canadians. Every single thing about how they basically want to turn us into worker slaves. They want to make us not be able to own anything. They want to have digital currency and control everything we buy and sell. You know, all of it. And it's so remarkable. You know, we have Mark Carney, who wants us draw us closer to all of that, further away from what's going on with Mr. Trump in the United States. But it made me think of this also, and that this is a question that I know, you know, a lot of people ask this. Okay, so what happens? What happens the day after Alberta becomes independent? Well, what then? But you guys have already planned a lot of this, haven't you? In fact, there are plans in place for peaceful trading relationships, security relationships, et cetera, with Canada. And I understand that you've even had some meetings in the United States with people from the Trump administration. Do you want to talk about that a little bit, or are you at liberty to do that? Well,
we can, because Jeff has. So I'm just going to say that, you know what, yeah, we've been there 3 times as APP, and it's conversation. It's conversation asking them, you know, should this happen? What could we expect? It's there's been nothing signed. There's none of that's happened. Yeah. It's been very constructive conversation, and it's 2-sided, actually, to tell you the truth. They're concerned about their border security. They should what's be going on here, and justifiably so. You know that we have no money laundering or racketeering laws here in Canada. Basically, I'm sure you know that. So as a consequence to that, it's not hard to find. You know, I mean, there's that video clip of the RCMP officers being asked how many organized crime families there are in Canada, and 4,000 is the number they come up with. 4,000 organized crime families in Canada. So
that's conservative.
well, yeah, it might be conservative.
Mhm.
And we've got ports on both sides of the country that only inspect 1% of the cargo that comes in. So, and then we got a meth lab that gets in Valley View or in that part of the world with 7,600 kilograms of meth making material. There's so much going on there that, yeah. So have we talked to them? Absolutely.
Yeah.
The boys just got back from that. You know, they're talking about day two. Well, the biggest concern with day two is stability.
Right.
The biggest concern with day two is stability. So what would stabilize that? What would stabilize that is if we could get some kind of a financial arrangement in place with them or anybody that would do it.
Right.
That would allow us to weather day two, day three, day four, and to get to the rest of it. And while we're transitioning into becoming an independent, wealthy country, because that's the way it would end up.
Yeah.
There's no risk involved for anybody, you know, that would be lending Alberta money based on what's going on here already. And the fact that we would be able to negotiate our own way, you know, even negotiate a pipeline south, which was discussed.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, the Keystone was shut down after Trump lost. You know, when Obama got back, it was Biden shut it down. So
Right.
yeah, and it's built right to the border. So I mean, it's something that could be turned on almost instantly and generate a whole bunch of money, and then we could start shipping oil west to one of the Chinas, either Taiwan or mainland China, and east. So and we're the closest to them by quite a long ways with oil supply. So there's an appetite there to buy our resources, and maybe we could grow our GDP 2%.
Right.
Yeah. Really, 2% growth for a country like this is ridiculously low.
Well,
We're 4% in the U.S. in the last quarter.
Yeah.
Right, and we're still 0.03 or 0.3.
Yeah.
Like, it's insane what's going on here.
Well, speaking about oil, I saw a graphic, really astonishing one that shows that an independent Alberta would have essentially the highest oil reserves per person, and even higher than the next highest is Kuwait, and Kuwait is just better than half. And you think of a country like Saudi Arabia has not even 1/4 of the number of the amount of oil reserves that Alberta does per person. And when you translate that into wealth, it really is remarkable. And I know when you talked about this, or you probably still do talk about this, but I know you talked about this a lot when you were going around giving your speeches about the pension plan, which is still part of the whole mixture. But you talked about how essentially that pension plan would be an expression of the reality that Alberta would become the richest per capita nation GDP in the world, almost on an unprecedented level. Now that is tangible. That's tangible reality. That's measurable reality, isn't it?
It's real. No, absolutely, it's real. As long as we can continue to sell our oil to people, and there's going to be increased global demand on oil, I don't understand why we can't continue to move forward. And even if we're talking about a $20 to $30 billion fiscal surplus, the government of Alberta is going to be running an $8 billion deficit this year. Even if we break even for the first year, we're still in a much better position than losing what we're losing to the east every year, and we'll be rid of the people that are trying to consciously shut us down and replace us and do all that and change our politics and change the way we think and change the way our children think and take opportunities away from our kids and grandkids. I really see that as a big win all by itself. Really.
Now, talking about the political structures that are in place, the Alberta legislature, the premier and her government, in your discussions with government, or for that matter, with the premier, is there a concern that all of that would be swept away if we became an independent country, or do you sense there's an understanding that actually your movement doesn't seek to remove all of that? In fact, it seems to me one of the benefits, one of the strengths, is that we actually have these structures in place, we have a justice system that is in need of improvement. We have a healthcare system. We have all these systems in place. Alberta would be a first world country.
Well,
So
sure.
what you're talking about, and again, this is a misunderstanding, maybe a matter of education, but you're not talking about wiping away all of that. What you're doing is you're talking about adapting existing structures that have worked very well in Alberta for a long time
Yeah,
into a new independent country. Do I have that right?
absolutely. Why would we rebuild all of that?
Yeah.
What we need to do is change some of the function of it.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, yeah, we have to change some of the function of it, right? We're going to have a constitutional conference, and that's going to be organized by the government that's there. And the government that's there is going to call an election, within a year, and we're going to re-elect people, maybe elect the same people
Yeah.
that are there with, with a different mandate and a different boss, not necessarily meaning a new premier, but they wouldn't be beholden to Ottawa.
Right.
We'd be beholden to ourselves, and we
Mhm.
actually could make policies that would make Alberta better off and Albertans better off.
Yeah.
I think that would be so much easier to govern than the way it is now, where you have to fight them for every, to take a step in any direction.
Mhm.
And that's the whole problem with our system. It's designed to cripple our economy. It absolutely is.
And also to destroy the time-honored values, the ones that you talked about. One other thing, Mitch, I want to ask you about kind of before we go, and that is, and again, I'm trying to touch on some of the things that people worry about
Okay, yeah.
with independence. Keith Wilson, who's a colleague of mine, very astute lawyer, works with you and is involved in the independence movement, and he produced a very informational video about the Clarity Act and talking about what would happen in the aftermath of a successful referendum.
Mhm.
That there would be this period of consultation where a new relationship with Canada would be worked out. And as you know, this is something that a lot of people worry about. Well, what happens with Canada? Is it like a divorce? And, we don't talk to each other. Obviously, in the aftermath, we would have to have, and we would want to have useful relationships with the rest of Canada. And people should understand, and Keith he does a very good job of explaining this. There'd be a whole period of consultation. You want to talk about that a little bit? Because I think that's an important piece of the puzzle that a lot of people miss when they think about independence and quote unquote separation.
So the Clarity Act is going to allow us to negotiate as a free and independent nation, though. So that's going to be the difference between us negotiating now,
right,
and us negotiating after.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the thing. So, and the Aboriginals are supposed to come to the table as well, and we have absolutely no appetite for hurting them in any way, shape, or form.
They're being hurt enough by our own government. It was just announced that they want to redo the whole child welfare system because the federal government is underfunding it. I mean, nobody treats. I'm an Indigenous person. I can tell you, nobody treats the Indigenous people worse than the Canadian government does.
Well, and that's the whole thing, and yet they were the people that were lined up in court to say, you know what, we don't want this. We want to block this. We want to block Alberta. And in actual fact, I think it would be to their great benefit, not to their detriment. And the whole thing with all of this is everybody has to understand. Well, I don't know. I'll take that back. When we have to, we're so focused on getting the win that, and we've got people that are looking at what happens day 2, day 3, day 4.
Right.
But it would be my fervent hope, and I've discussed this with the Premier. I've asked her, do you have a plan if we win this vote? And should you have a plan if we win this vote? And the answer is absolutely, she should have a plan. And would you, be, for all intents and purposes, the leader of the independent country of Alberta and guide it through to the next steps? And if you choose to run again, to make that, to make the transition smooth. And who would you be doing that for? The people of Alberta, right? The whole goal here is to make the people of Alberta better off, so we don't want to hurt them in any way, shape, or form. So the idea is going to be, let's have a smooth transition, and let's get on with building something really awesome. Because, I mean, in business, we make these decisions, well, not these kind of decisions, but we make big decisions all the time based on what we're going to do for our future. And there's going to be some risk involved. but when we make a decision like a major decision in business, we look at the upside. I think that's going to be the case. If somebody presented me with the business case of a free and independent Alberta and asked me if I wanted to buy in or not, I would absolutely buy in.
Oh yeah.
Would you buy into the flip side though? If you're a free and independent Alberta, would you want to buy into coming back into this relationship with Canada?
Yeah.
And that Dennis uses that all the time.
Yeah.
And I would suggest that I would not. And most Albertans understanding what's going on here wouldn't want to do it either.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I think Jeff calls it
Me Too
battered province syndrome.
Me Too concerns me. I'm not going to lie to you. But what concerns me more is what happens if we stay.
Right.
I would be way more concerned about what would happen if we stayed in Canada based on what's going on right now and based on what's going on in the world. Like you alluded to the fact, well, this is not here. It's Australia, New Zealand, United Kingdom,
right,
Europe. It's happening everywhere. Bulgaria Italy's in turmoil right now. I don't know if anybody's aware of that.
Yes.
Italy's actually battling this whole thing in a big way. Bulgaria just shut the government down completely and changed government. I mean, people around the world are waking up to the fact that this globalist agenda is not going to be to their benefit.
Yeah.
So we just have to wake people up here to say, look, we're fighting the globalist agenda. This is what we're doing. We don't want them to be our boss because all they want to do is take everything from us, put us in a digital box, and take control of who we are and what we're going to be in the future, and really control us like slaves.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's hard for me to articulate that because my problem with that is it sounds so out there.
It does.
That it's
but he's telling us what they've been telling us what they're going to do. I mean, and that's in a way, it's a gift to the Alberta independence movement, isn't it?
Yeah, well, absolutely. Actually, I want to tell you something. It is so one-sided, against them, and they continue to pile on to that one-sidedness. It gives me pause to think that they actually want us to become independent. Are they pushing us to independence? I mean, really, if you were going to write a script and try and push us out, what would you change?
Yeah, it's become a black and white thing, isn't it?
Well, it absolutely is.
Yeah,
and that's why we can't get anybody to debate us.
Yeah.
Because there's no other side to this.
Yeah, you can't. How do you defend it? One sort of practical thing I want to ask you about, Mitch, because I know you're very involved still in the UCP. As a timing thing with the referendum versus the 27 provincial election, how do you see that unfolding? Do you see the independence and the referendum becoming the key issue in the next provincial election? Mr. Nenshi has made his position very clear. He's very much against Alberta independence. Well, he's anti-freedom. He's for everything that Mr. Carney is. In fact, the NDP, or provincial NDP, are just the federal. It's just globalism by another name, right?
Well, certainly.
Yeah. So how do you see this stacking up politically, practically, in terms of the timing of the referendum and the timing of the next provincial election?
Well, I was always worried about all of that. Bill 14 gave me lots of pause. I wasn't happy with the fact that they actually appointed the premier as the person that would have to, ratify all the nominations. That to me is a lot of power and the fact that the president of the provincial board is losing some of the ability to do that, as well as the executive officer there.
Right.
And it's just in the hands of the premier. But if that premier, and I'm not saying Danielle Smith is going to be that premier that's going to do that, but I mean, I could certainly see Jason Kenney becoming a problem as far as that.
Yeah, he's stepped out of the woodwork, hasn't he?
Either you behave, or I'm not going to sign your nomination papers.
Yeah.
And that's a pretty big hammer over some of these MLAs. And as far as the timing of the 2027 election, it concerns me very much because I just think that they could be using this to delay things. I hope they're not. But then again, I've always said we're not going to allow. We're not going to have to look for politicians to save us. We're going to have to save ourselves.
Right.
So how do we save ourselves? By making this so big that they can't cheat, or change things, or do something else. And that's the ultimate goal. Let's make it big enough so they can't cheat. So it's going to require a whole bunch of work. We're going to work really, really hard, and nobody's going to get shot at Well, maybe
We
not.
hope.
Yeah, maybe not. But at any rate, you're not going to have to run into a machine gun to save your freedoms.
Yeah.
You're going to have the opportunity to actually do it legally, peacefully, and practically, so that it's up to us. It's up to us to absolutely step up, do the work, get the people, educate ourselves, educate our friends, educate our families, and move this thing along as fast as we can move it along before the 2027 election. And maybe there never will be another provincial election. How about that for a goal?
Yeah. How about that? Well, there it is, folks. Mitch Sylvester. We've gotten a lot out of him in 1 hour.
Yeah, well,
So pleased that we had the chance to talk with him from his home. And I know it's a busy time and he's taking time away from his family. We're so grateful for that, Mitch. It's always a pleasure to talk with you and learn more about what you're doing. I hope God continues to bless you and your work and the work that other people involved in Alberta Independence are doing. I know that there's some of the best people out there who are working with you on this. And it's great for us to have the opportunity to spread the word and get accurate information out there about what Alberta independence means and what it could mean for Albertans. So thank you so much for being with us. It's been a real pleasure to talk with you. Michael, I'm going to hand it over to you for the final word, and maybe you could lead us in a closing prayer, unless we have some comments that you want to raise.
Oh, well, the comments have been somewhat fast and furious. We do.
Really?
We'll start with a gracious.
This is a topic that will attract comments, right?
So Diana, thank you for thanking us. We are grateful for that. And then, of course, our good friend Wes.
Of course.
This is a bite-sized piece here. My wife would like to ask the following question. What would happen to all of the mortgages currently held by CMHC, that federally insured mortgage?
Well,
that's a dastardly beast.
That's a great question. Do you have an answer, Mitch?
Well, that's a great question. And actually, we kind of do have an answer for that we can't share.
Okay.
So just understand that we're going to be in a position to have a great big line of credit. And if that comes to fruition, mortgages can be handled by our own government. That'll be pay interest to the Canadian government. That would be, buy the mortgages out and just renew them.
So
or continue paying to them based on the contract that you have, and when you renew here.
Yeah. Now, I suppose essentially, you gentlemen could correct me if I'm wrong, but CMHC is essentially an insurance policy,
right,
on a home.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
it's just a corporate invention.
Why don't we just have a Wawanesa or some other, fill in your favorite insurance company, and I hopefully. We all know that Canadians pay probably more in taxes than they do in utilities and groceries and rent or mortgages combined.
Right.
I believe this new Alberta would actually find a lot of good quality, efficient private sector options that have been stealing people's money through taxation. And of course, taxation is theft.
Not to sing the praises of Russia.
Yeah.
But one of the things that they do well is Russia has almost no debt, and they back everything with oil. Well, Alberta has a lot more oil than Russia.
That's right.
I'm sure that there are many solutions for Albertans that would be a lot more beneficial to their pocketbooks than having the federal government insure their mortgages.
And how about if we, a free trade agreement with the U.S. so that we could shop our mortgages and get the best rates in North America through American banks, based on a one-time the securities there, and so there could be that option as well.
Yeah, that's a great idea. And the other thing about U.S. mortgages is that in the U.S., in most states, at least, the interest on their mortgages is tax deductible.
That's correct. It is.
In Canada, it's not, and that's something that Alberta could do.
Absolutely.
So there's all kinds of things, and of course, what could the Alberta Treasury branch and other credit unions become, like Bow Valley? What could they become in a new Alberta?
Well,
the sky's the limit.
Let's just say that if you could arrange a $500 billion line of credit, with a large trading partner, and actually make all that work seamlessly. I think that would be the goal. Or involve institutions that would be very happy to take over your mortgage based on, the way it is right now. And since the CMHC, I don't think CMHC would not guarantee the mortgage if you paid, if you paid CMHC,
Right.
the insurance part of it when you got your mortgage, because I know that I always did. So I think they'd still be on the hook for that, just like the government of Canada is still on the hook for
Yes.
CPP. Like,
Yeah.
even if you live here in another country, they still have to pay you
Mhm.
because they're committed to you. That's the law.
Yeah.
You've worked for them, and they owe it to you, even if you lived in Florida or Costa Rica or anywhere else. And I don't see why this would be any different.
Well, and at least in Alberta, we wouldn't have to worry about losing our land because of screwy judicial decisions like Cowichan. That alone is a good reason to get out
Yeah,
of Canada.
exactly. Our land is all ceded, and theirs is
Yeah.
not.
Yeah. So, any other comments or questions that you wanted to bring up, Michael, from viewers and listeners? That was a really good one, Wes. Thank you.
It was. Thank you. Well, Wes is always digging deep and thinking.
Oh yeah.
And then, of course, here's just a little bit of a jab at the former Prime Minister Trudeau, and there's a lot of other things to admire about China than their basic dictatorship.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and in the old timey days, like going back to the time of Romans and Jesus Christ, kings did not tax their own people; they taxed the people that they conquered.
Yeah.
So, if you're getting taxed by a government, ladies and gentlemen, just remember that Roman principle of they only tax those they've conquered.
Mhm,
Yes.
mhm.
There you go.
Yeah. Very
Closing prayer time, I
Okay.
think. So thank you, gentlemen, for being here. Thank you for being a good Lord Jesus. And thank you for this technology where we can meet together. And we just are grateful for the peace that we have and the time of celebration of the birth of Christ and the new year. And we thank you, Lord, that we can go forward into 2026 with optimism and faith and expectation for all good things. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thanks, Michael. I want to thank you for that. And also want to thank Mitch and everyone at Alberta Prosperity Project, all the work that they're doing on behalf of Albertans in support of Alberta independence. If you want to learn more about Alberta independence, please check out Alberta Prosperity Project website. They're also on X and Facebook and everywhere else. Lots of wonderful information. Also, my own page, my page on X, I regularly post and repost information about Alberta independence. So check all that out. As Mitch said, it's so important to educate ourselves about the benefits, about what could be, and to disabuse our minds of the past and feel like we're locked into a failing Canadian state. So I want to thank everyone who's working on this on behalf of all Albertans, and especially our special guest here, Mr. Mitch Sylvester. Thank you, and God bless all of you, and have a happy new year. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, happy New Year, everybody. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. It's always fun.